So I quit my white collar finance job about a month ago and started driving. And I've been driving for long enough to kind of talk about the difference between the two jobs. So when I was in the office, the first thing I noticed was like when I used to work in the office after a day, I would be exhausted, like mentally exhausted. Like I'd come home and wouldn't have enough time or energy to like think or cook or like do anything else extracurricular. I just wanted to lay down and do nothing. Um, but driving is not like that. So like I'm tired at the end of the day, but I get home and I have time to really focus on everything else that I have going on in my life. Plan for my personal business as well as other things.
Have you ever finished a full workday and felt like your brain was just gone? You had plans to read, to learn, to grow, but all you could do was collapse on the couch and scroll or sleep. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. In this video, I want to make the case that your 9-to-5 job is making you dumber, not because you're not smart, but because you no longer have the time, energy, or mental clarity to think deeply, study, or challenge your beliefs. Let's start with what countless people have reported. After work, I'm too tired to cook, too tired to think, too tired to even read a book. It's not about laziness, it's exhaustion. The guy who quit his white-collar finance job to start driving said, "Now I'm still tired at the end of the day, but I have time and energy to work on my business and plan my future." Why? Because driving, while tiring, didn't mentally exhaust him like the office job did. Most 9-to-5 workers are mentally drained before they ever open a book, if they even get to one. Now let's go deeper. Have you ever read something that totally changed your worldview? A book, an article, a documentary, a friend's comment, and suddenly you see life differently. Now imagine, you never read that book, you never watch that documentary, because that day you were at work, and when you got home, you were too tired. And when you had the time and energy, it still wasn't enough to make up for the years you lost not learning. The tragic reality is this: you could have been smarter, you could have been wiser, you could have had a paradigm shift, you could have grown far more, if only you had more time. People often say, you learn on the job. Yes, but what do you learn? You might pick up some technical skills. You might gain experience in one niche. But when was the last time you learned philosophy at work? Or ethics, or parenting, or history, or how to recognize propaganda? You're not learning those things in a corporate spreadsheet, or on a construction site, or in a hospital. A lot of people report otherwise, but it just isn't true. If you are not reading the works of the most brilliant minds, you will never reach the conclusions that they shared. And even if you study after work hours, it's never the same as having an entire day, every day, to think and grow. If you're in high school or university and your parents are supporting you, this is likely the most intellectually free time you'll ever have. Don't waste it on distractions. This is when you decide who you'll be for the rest of your life. Because once you're juggling full-time work, bills, a spouse, and kids, deep study becomes nearly impossible for most people. You'll stick with whatever ideas you already hold, not because they're right, but because you won't have the time or energy to challenge them, make the most of the opportunity, or regret it forever. Let's be realistic. Not everyone can quit their job. And I'm definitely not saying you should. But here's what you can do. Make even a small space for daily learning. 20 minutes can make a difference. Start with a little and build up more over time. Use audiobooks or podcasts. They don't drain you like reading sometimes does. Make passive time active. Driving, cleaning, or walking can become time to learn. If you can get noise-canceling earphones, put on an audiobook when you're on the train. Don't just sit there doing nothing. Follow platforms that teach clearly and efficiently, including my site, where I break complex ideas into accessible audio and text content. So to be absolutely clear, I'm not saying 9-to-5 workers are dumb. That would be foolish, wrong, and insulting. What I am saying is, most people are being prevented from reaching their intellectual potential, not because of their ability, but because of their circumstances. It's not that you're not capable, it's that the system robs you of the time and energy you need to grow. Unfortunately, because of supply and demand needs, the system is not going to change for some time. We just have to make the most of it as it currently is. So if you're young and still have time, don't waste it. If you're working full-time, reclaim even a small piece of your mind each day. And if you're someone who's spent years learning, You have a moral duty to make that knowledge accessible for others who have less time. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's help more people wake up to what they're missing.